4 people were killed and 7 were hurt when a man went on a stabbing rampage across multiple locations in a northern Illinois community. A 15-year-old girl, a 63-year-old woman, a 49-year-old man, and a 22-year-old man were killed in the incident, and 5 others who were injured were transported to local hospitals with serious injuries, the Rockford Police Department said in a news release. 5 people were injured in the city of Rockford and 2 people were injured in the jurisdiction of Winnebago County, Rockford Police spokesperson Michelle Marcomb told. A man, 22, has been arrested and is being questioned by police. Police said the motive for the attacks remained unclear. The home invasion occurred on Florence Street, but the attacks unfolded at multiple locations. Police say Winnebago County Sheriff Gary Caruana said a young woman had sustained stab wounds to her hands and face after being seen running away from the suspect. Rockford Police Chief Carla said that not all of the victims had been stabbed, but added that none had suffered gunshot wounds. She said police did not believe there were any other suspects at large. Not all of the victims found at multiple addresses in the city had stab wounds and none were shot, according to Red said residents in the area were being asked to review their home surveillance camera footage for anything related to the attacks.
What happened in Moscow could happen in US. Senator Marco Rubio. Last Friday's terrorist attack at the Crocus City Hall music venue outside Moscow showed that Islamic State extremists have been able to re-establish their operations in Afghanistan after the chaotic US pullout in 2021, Florida Senator Marco Rubio told ABC News. Last week, 4 gunmen stormed the arena just before a concert by the rock band Picnic. The venue, which has an estimated capacity of 7,500, was almost full. The terrorists killed the unarmed guards, opened fire on visitors, and then started a blaze which quickly spread through the building. At least 137 people were killed and over 180 were injured, according to officials. Speaking to ABC's This Week, Rubio said the fact that ISIS Khorasan, a wing of Islamic State based primarily in Afghanistan, has claimed responsibility for the atrocity suggests that the group has regained its footing and could be planning other attacks. ISIS-K reconstituted itself as we warned would happen when we had this disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, the senator said, recalling that one of the main criticisms of US President Joe Biden's rushed exit was that it would give terrorists operating space to reorganize themselves. Once we leave Afghanistan and we're no longer there to conduct regular strikes, they can now operate openly. No matter how much the Taliban wants to take them on, they can't. They don't have the capability to do it, Rubio said, adding that Islamic State has now found a place to operate from and is likely looking for more real estate where they can organize and plot attacks. Rubio pointed out that in recent years, Islamic State extremists have carried out numerous attacks in Afghanistan and Iran and warned that the massacre on Russian soil means that they could soon attempt something similar in the US. Their aspirations go beyond Russia and Iran, the senator said, adding that Islamic State would love to do what they did in Moscow here inside the United States. He stressed that the US should be very concerned about such a threat and suggested that Islamic State extremists may use trafficking networks to enter the country through the US-Mexico border. Germany says that Scholz's visit to China prevented Russia's nuclear strike on Ukraine. Western media, including German, reported that in 2022, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz arrived in Beijing and helped convince Chinese leader Xi Jinping to influence Putin not to use nuclear weapons against Ukraine. But Bild publication disagrees with such statements. Earlier, the leader of the SPD faction in the Bundestag, Rolf Mützenich, said that Ukraine and the rest of Europe should thank Scholz as his visit helped prevent a possible Russian nuclear strike on Ukraine on Putin's orders. However, Bild notes that its columnist Philip Pyatov casts doubt on this and recalls that earlier the US media had written that in the autumn of 2022, the US feared a nuclear strike by Russia against Ukraine. China was involved in preventing it. After Olaf Scholz's visit to Beijing, the Chinese authorities called for the non-use of nuclear weapons. As early as 2022, the American media wrote that Scholz's role in Beijing was minimal and that he only passed on information from Washington. In response to Bild's request, the Chancellor's office quoted His words from November 2022 after a meeting with Xi Jinping. In Beijing, I asked President Xi to use his influence on Russia. On one hand, the Americans threatened the Russian Federation. On the other hand, and the Chancellor was involved in this, we managed to get China and India to sign a declaration in which they spoke out against the use of nuclear weapons in general and in Ukraine in particular. Olaf Scholz certainly contributed to the change in China's position. But in any case, Scholz did not prevent a nuclear war, as there were no signs that a nuclear strike was imminent. Military expert Carlo Massala, a professor at the Bundeswehr University in Munich, told Bild. Earlier, it was reported that if the Russian president believes that it is enough for him to just sit out this war and we will weaken our support, then he miscalculated. Also, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz announced the creation of a long-range rocket artillery coalition for Ukraine. And the Bundestag reported that Scholz would eventually provide Ukraine with Taurus missiles.